A well-trained dog can be a farmer's best friend, and that's especially true when a farmer needs extra help just to get through a regular day. Next on Show Me Ag. Welcome to Show Me Ag. I'm your host, Kyle Vickers. Thanks for joining us. Farmers and dogs often have a close working relationship. Often used for herding or as their own brand of farm security, a good dog is essential. But for folks who have extra challenges, dogs can be even more important, allowing them to continue their chosen occupation. Joining us tonight is Jackie Allenbrand. PHARM Dog USA was her brainchild, and she continues to work hard to grow this not-for-profit enterprise. Welcome and thanks for coming. First of all, let's give us a little background. How did you get started in this project?
Well, I got started in this in 2005. I was visiting with a farmer at a farm show, and he was telling me about how helpful his border collie Weasel was to him. And he had a partial leg amputation, and he was saying, I can sit at the gate and I can send Weasel out to gather up the cattle, drive them up here to me, and I can just lock them in and do what I need to do. And started me thinking a little bit about how we use dogs on our farm and how it saves time and energy. So I thought, why not try to train for specific purposes for farmers with disabilities?
You had some previous background in working with that anyway, didn't you?
Yes, I did. Used to work for a group called Agribility and worked with farmers with disabilities in that as well. So
how'd you get started? How'd you get this organized? Did you find a lot of people willing to help?
Well, I actually thought of the idea in 2005. I was going to the big town of Atlantis, population 6, and passed one of those carved logs in someone's yard. It was spelled P.H.A.R.M. And that's how I came up with the acronym Pets Helping Agriculture in Rural Missouri. And went and discussed it with my husband and said, what do you think about this idea? Training border collies is nothing new. Training Labradors is nothing new. But how about training them for a specific purpose and for farmers with disabilities? And then I just started doing research.
So you really just started this on your own.
Yes.
How did you spread this out and find extra help?
Well, it took me a while. I used to carry around a black lab statue with me to farm shows and things and had a few strange looks, but we started doing research, and in 2009 I met Bobby Miller, one of our trainers, and that's how we really got started with receiving dogs and started training that way.
Well, that's interesting you'd say that. We wanted to see some of these dogs in action, so we recently went to Plattsburgh, Missouri, where Bobby Miller trains border collies for PHARM Dog USA.
Yes.
PHARM Dog is it's spelled P.H.A.R.M, and that means Pet Helping Agriculture in Rural Missouri. Jackie Allenbrand, the lady that started it and is the head of it, was looking for border collie and couldn't find one. A lady that she knew, and this is kind of where the idea come in. Her husband had lost his leg, I think above the knee. Well, he couldn't handle his cattle anymore, and he thought, well, I'll get me a dog. Well, Jackie kind of helped him and all that. Well, then they got to looking for another border collie, and a friend of mine told her about me, and they come out and looked at them, and Jackie explained the program and what it is. We want to place working dogs with farmers for no cost if we can. And you know, it costs money to go there and to stay and all that, so we have to have money, but we try not to charge farmers anything. And Jackie explained that to me, and that night I talked to my wife and I said, you know, I think this is where we need to put our dogs and my time, and she agreed, so that's how I got started. I'd try not to go to training on one till they're about 1.5 years old. Now there's a lot of trainers out there that train them a lot younger, but they're like little kids. If you put too much in them, you'll burn them out, I believe. But what we do is I've got a pup out of Sweet Baby Joe, and she's 7 months old, and we've been letting her work for about 3 or 4 months now. But I let them go out there and I let them enjoy it. I let them play. I don't try to do a lot with them. I just build the enjoyment, and you can see the enjoyment when they're out there chasing. There's no doubt they love it. But I want to build that love in there, so when I do go to correcting them, they think, okay, you know, like a little kid. If you're trying to get him to do something and you correct him all the time, well, he don't like it. But if he has fun and he knows it's fun, he'll say, okay, I'll do it this way, and go on. So that's kind of the way I handle these dogs. The way I train, you know, some people, and every trainer is different. But I do it off reward. You know, and these dogs, it's not what you say to them necessarily, it's how you say it. You know, and whenever they please you and you tell them they please you, you can see them. Boy, it just excites them. And when I get on to them, you can see, you know, and I may be telling them in a rough voice, you know, you're the best dog in the world, you know, but saying in a rough voice, they think I'm upset, you know. And whenever you correct one, the easiest way to correct one is to put them in timeout. Take them away from their sheep or whatever you're working, put them back in their kennels. It's like putting a little kid in a corner with all of his toys laying around him. He just can't take it. And these dogs are the same way, you know. And I don't use treats. I don't give my dogs treats. They're with me because they want to be with me, not because I'm tempting them and all that. I start all the dogs, you know, and they, like Sweet Baby Joe, she works cows, but I started her on sheep. And the reason I do that, start them on sheep, until you get the handle on them where you can keep them out of trouble. You know, if they run up on one of these sheep and get too close, sheep ain't gonna kick them. They may run on them, but they're not gonna hurt them. You run up on a cow and the cow kicks them, that's gonna hurt them. If I can get my commands on him where I can make him go left, right, in, out, down, well, I can keep that dog from getting hurt because he's got to work on confidence, you know. And these 30 and 40 pound dogs moving, even my sheep, you know, they weigh 100 and something pounds. They're bigger than them dogs, so that dog's got to believe they can do it. So we have to build confidence.
You're really lucky to find Mr. Miller at the time you did.
Yes.
And have you been able to place several dogs?
We've placed 13 since 2009, and that doesn't seem like very many to some, but we are all farmers ourselves and all have other things going on. And at that time when I first started doing this, I had another job. So now we've got a little bit more time.
It's interesting. I think the depiction of a farmer is a young, stout, virile man that can handle anything, but there's a lot of folks out there that are aging and have some issues that they need help with. And you've been able to place these dogs with people with a variety of issues.
Mm-hmm. That's right. Yeah, the average age of a farmer now is 58.3, I believe they say. So yeah, getting a lot older, a lot more disabilities and illnesses coming about at that age.
Well, while we were in Plattsburgh, we also had the opportunity to talk to a couple of these farm dog recipients who believe this program has changed their lives for the better.
Well, Alda Owens is here, and she has a dog called Sweet Baby Joe, and she helps Alda. Alda is legally blind. It's hard for her to get out there amongst them cows because that's where she could get hurt. She can stay in a safe place now. Joe can either bring the cows to her so she can look at them, or if she wants them in a lot, Joe can put them in the lot for her. It is safety.
Between my daughter and her good friend, they contacted Jackie Allenbrand, and she come down and she told me about her program. And she said, "Do you think you'd like a border collie? It could help you bring the cattle up. It would lay at the gate and keep them in the lot so you wouldn't get run over shutting the gate." And I go, "Well, I don't know. I didn't know anything about border collies." So that was the beginning of a whole new life for me. They are a pet. She's an unconditional, warm, loving, wonderful pet. But number one, she is a working, helping hand. And that's the same way with the service dogs, which are lab mixes or whatever. Those dogs, they're happy to be a caretaker, but the ones that are working on the farm, picking up tools and being with that farmer every day, they are, I can see a difference when I've gone to conventions because their tails are up. They know they're not just walking around in a building all day long. They've got a different attitude, just the same way as the farmer's got a different attitude. I've had doctors tell me that they just love seeing the rural people because they want to get up and they want to be productive. And so that's what I can say about Farm Dog. They help farmers be positive and productive and gives the dogs the positive and productive side also.
The other lady here is Sheila. She has lupus, and she's losing her strength, and she has some old big sheep, and they would knock her down. She'd go in to feed. And Sue, now, when she goes in there with Sue, them sheep get to the end of the shed, and they stay there. They don't matter what Sheila takes in there. They won't come out there and run over. until she takes that dog out of there.
Sue, for me, every morning we get up and the first thing we have to do is play a little fetch, just because I think it's fun. And then as soon as we're done with that, we go out to the barn and she kind of makes sure all the sheep are out of the pasture and brings them up to the barn. And then while I'm spreading hay and spreading corn into the feed bunks, she keeps them all back kind of in a corner or along the wall so that they're not running over me trying to get to the corn. Sheep are a little different than cattle. They, with their shepherd or shepherdess, they like to get right up to you. They're not afraid of you. They trust you. It's a, you know, that's just kind of a thing with sheep and their owners. But it can be a hassle and it can kind of be a hazard, especially if I'm having a dizzy day or a day where I'm not very strong. Then, you know, if I get knocked down, I'm down for a couple of days. And so with Sue, she keeps everybody back and lets me get everything spread out, and then I tell her that'll do, and we walk out and let the sheep start eating.
People who have disabilities, if they should, I hope that they try not to get depressed and go to medicine. You know, if they would go to a farm dog, we have service dogs. Those are the best medicine you can get because it can give you back that positive energy you didn't know you had.
I'd been kind of looking into that therapy side before I even really knew what the program did, but now that I've been a part of it, I wish that we could get everybody a dog that needed one. It's just an amazing program, and I'm just so blessed by it. Sorry.
Well, this brings up a lot of questions. Let's talk about the dogs first. These are Border Collies, amazing dogs, very intelligent, and love to work, don't they?
Yes, they do. Yes, very intelligent, easy to train.
And yet the bonding that they have between their handler and owner is just amazing.
It is, yeah. You have to look at not only how they help them on the physical side, but as you can tell, they help them on the emotional side as well, too, to get up and go and get out and do what they need to get done.
When someone has a physical problem and not able to carry on, it'd be awfully easy to give up, but these people are not giving up at all, are they?
No, they are not. They are not. They get out and go and get things done.
So, you mentioned, well, let's talk about dogs again. I'm sorry. Okay. The Labrador Retrievers are used in a different purpose. They're also a wonderful dog. Tell us a little bit about how those dogs are used.
Okay. We use labs or lab mixes, and we try to use those that are saved from rescues or shelters. You know, save a dog, help a person. And those dogs can be trained to help with mobility. As you know, farm ground is sometimes a little rough, and farmers need help with their mobility, so the dogs wear a harness, trained to open gates, retrieve buckets, retrieve tools, and can be trained to do a variety of things depending on what the farmer's need is.
I think I could have a full-time dog retrieving tools just from the ones I've lost. But so, and where do you, the Kansas City shelters, local shelters?
Well, we actually just try to work with our local shelters, and I have been visiting some with the Puppies for Parole program, which is the Missouri Correctional Center.
Where they're helping train the dogs?
They're helping train shelter dogs, and I'm actually going to look at one of their dogs next week, so hoping we can help them out as well.
You mentioned you've placed 13. What other kinds of, I hate to use the word disabilities, but challenges have folks had that you've been able to help with? Okay,
well, we've actually placed a dog in Nebraska as well, too, and we placed that dog with a farmer named Troy, and he's paralyzed from the chest down. And so we had to train the dog just a little bit different because he didn't have the, the arm strength. We always make ourselves look a little bigger when we're driving in cattle, and so more voice command for him. And just arthritis, legally blind, cancer survivors, lupus, traumatic brain injuries, those sorts of things.
Well, that's amazing. And how are these people contacting you? Have you got a network now that is helping to find the people and match the dogs?
Yes, we travel to a lot of farm shows and the state fair and that sort of thing, but we have a website, PHARMdog.org, and of course spelled with the P.H.A.R.M. And we have a submission form, contact form on there they can fill out. Had a little trouble with our phone here lately, so if they've called us, we might have missed them, but call us back. So that's how we go about gathering up information.
So your main problem, it seems like to me, is resources.
Yes.
How'd you get started? I mean, did you find contributors? Did you just kind of take this on yourself?
Well, we actually spend a lot of our own money, which we are farmers. We are not independently wealthy, but just working off donations from the public. We have a GoFundMe campaign set up. We have PayPal on our website, and just started out with some donations from folks, and just with extra publicity and things, a few more of those are coming in, but we could travel and help a lot more farmers if we had additional funding, a training center, all those sorts of things.
You do have a not-for-profit set up, so those contributions would be tax deductible.
Exactly, right.
And I know you've talked about maybe a documentary at some point to kind of spread this word. What other plans do you have to publicize this operation?
Well, we still post a lot of things on our Facebook page, and take every opportunity like the one you've offered us here and getting the word out. There is an author that's writing a book for National Geographic that may put our story in her next book, and so just keeping the road hot, I guess, and taking those opportunities that come to us and get the word out.
Social media can be very helpful, can it?
Yes, exactly.
And so if people are anxious to try to help, you'll accept those contributions through your not-for-profit.
Yes, exactly.
What are your plans for the future? Just to try to continue to expand this and hopefully maybe it can go nationwide?
We hope so. I usually say we're either dumb or determined. You can make
Hard
that
to tell
call.
with farmers, really.
That's right. That's right. We've been at it for 10 years, but just a nonprofit since 2012, and we have dogs in training now for a couple of returning veterans. So we appreciate funds, but if we don't have funds, we still try to do what we can.
Is there any government assistance available to either to the farmer or directly to you?
On occasion, if they're working with vocational rehabilitation, sometimes they will help with some training, or Veterans Associate Administration.
The veteran thing is very troubling to me. I have another friend that works with dogs going to veterans because that bond between the dog and the person really can make a difference in that person's life. Sometimes with PTSD or other issues, it can make a big difference. Have you been in contact with the VA, or is that part of their program?
I have been in contact with the Firemen's Veteran Coalition. They're based out of California, and they know about our organization and want to visit at some point in time. So
how many, Mr. Miller, looks like he's got a whole kennel full of dogs. How many dogs is he working with at any one time?
Well, he's probably got about 4 or 5 that he's working with now. And we do have another trainer in Packwood, Iowa. Don McKay works on the cattle side of things. So between the two of them, they've probably got about 10 dogs going right now.
And did they also work with your lab and lab crosses? So do you have somebody else working on that?
I do some of that myself, try to get them started on the basics, and then whatever the needs of the farmer, then we dive into the more difficult training. So
is a person qualify for this help if a person has these challenges? Is there some qualification process they go through, or right now the small site you're just able to adjust personally?
We we will take anybody's questions that may come in, and how they receive a dog is, it has to be a farmer or a farm family member that has a disability or an illness and is actively farming and working day in, day out on the farm. And we've had a lot of calls of people just wanting dogs, and we can't do that at this point in time. So,
well, you spend a lot of time and energy in getting them trained.
Right. Yes.
So you want to be selective.
Yes, exactly.
I know you've got another program going that you mentioned to me earlier in Maryville about your growing lettuce. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yes, I'm a board member with a group called Lettuce Dream, and it's LETTUCE. And we are working on getting a facility set up there to train persons with disabilities so that they can learn how to plant hydroponic lettuce and how to harvest it, how to package it, how to sell. So we'll probably start working on that, the building phase of things, in the spring of 2016.
And what brought you to this heart for people? It sounds like to me, to get personal here, but
yes,
a heart for people who are suffering through these challenges. Is there something in your life that led you to this?
Well, I guess I was always kind of for the underdog in a sense, and when college, I specialized in that, got my degree in education and special education. And I think a lot of times persons with disabilities are overlooked, but if you give them a chance, they can do a lot of things.
I think people tend to tend to forget about all the things that can happen. Farming is a fairly dangerous occupation, in addition to you mentioned the aging of farmers, so there's a lot of need out there, isn't there?
Yes, there is. National Agribility that's based out of Purdue University in Indiana. They gathered some data in 2008, and the numbers they come up with were 1 million to 2.2 million farmers with disabilities in the United States. So
and still actively trying to hold on to their farm.
Yes.
Sometimes those farms have been in the family for generations. They don't want to let them go. And if that's the only lifestyle you've known, that's hard to give up, isn't it?
yes, it is. And sometimes when a farmer is injured or has an illness, they're told you need to get out of this occupation. But there are ways for them to stay independent and active on the farm.
You mentioned the Agribility program. That's a different program altogether, run through the Extension Services, I believe.
Yes, it's a USDA-sponsored program that partners with a land-grant university and a nonprofit.
And that can help farmers get equipment and so on to deal with some of their issues, like maybe to get into a cab or a pickup or something like that as well.
Yes, they're not a funding source, but they can help you find the resources.
Help find another not-for-profit or something that can help with that. Anything else you'd like to tell us about your farm dog program?
Well, just wanted to let people know that those that have supported us, it's greatly appreciated. We're just a small group, farmers ourselves. We don't have 10 trainers and a big training center, so if you contact us, just be patient with us, but thank you for the support.
And nobody's drawing a salary.
No one is drawing a salary. So one of these days, maybe corporate sponsorship will come along and we can do that, but we're going to try to do what we can.
I appreciate the GoFundMe. Tell us how that works. That's become quite a thing nationally, is the GoFundMe process. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Yes. The GoFundMe account that we have, you go to GoFundMe.com and type in PHARM Dog USA and we'll pop up. And you can put in an amount that you would like to earn, and then people can donate that way through our website or go to GoFundMe. And they do take a percentage out. So we always encourage anybody that wants to donate to just contact us directly,
You'd rather do it directly,
and
but,
we'll tell you.
yeah.
But it is a good source to try to raise.
We want people to have lots of opportunities if they're willing and able to help.
Right.
We want to have a lot of opportunities to do so. What's your immediate plans for the future? Just keep trying to raise money and get more dogs out there?
Yes, yes. Getting more dogs out there is our main goal. We don't always think about the money. It helps, but our main goal is to place as many dogs as we can with farmers.
So you mentioned you've got 13 dogs out there. What is your geographical area that you've been able to place dogs in so far?
Right now we're mainly placing dogs in Missouri, but we have traveled to Kansas and Nebraska and Iowa, and have some calls really from all over the United States since we had some national publicity, but can't get to all those people just yet because of the funding, travel. We stay on the farm when we place the dogs. We don't ask the farmers to come to a location. We go to them, so that
does someone go when you're placing a dog? I'm sure there's you can't just dump the dog off and say have at it. How do you handle that?
Well, we travel to the location where the farmer is because we want to introduce the dog to the livestock, the equipment, their surroundings, and we like to stay about 4 days if we can on the service side of things. A border collie will stay a day or two. Sometimes have to dog break the cattle, which takes some time, get them used to one another.
But are the dogs fairly adaptable, having been at, say, Mr. Miller's place for a couple of years? Are they just tickled to find a new owner and a new job and new responsibilities?
Yes, the transition has gone quite well, actually. They can transfer quite easily, and we haven't had any problems that way.
How long does it take for an owner to bond with the dog? Sometimes minutes, sometimes days?
Well, yes, we encourage them to just kind of mess around and play with them a little bit for the first couple of weeks and get to know what their temperament is and that sort of thing. And then it usually doesn't take too long for them to bond.
Well, there's kind of a natural bond between the dogs and people, and these border collies are trained to do that anyway.
Right.
So have you ever had any problems where they just couldn't get along and they've had to start over?
Yes, we have had a couple of instances. We had a border collie that killed a chicken, so that didn't go over very well, and then one that got a hold of a cat. So those are just things that happen on the farm, and to some people that may sound cruel, but they are just part of the farm surroundings and those things happen.
Well, dogs and chickens and cats don't always get along in the
Right.
best of circumstances, so I can kind of understand that.
Yes.
What about the individual, though? Have you ever had an individual just said, no, this isn't going to work?
We have had, and so we don't want them to be stuck with a dog that is not going to be beneficial to them. So we'll take that dog back and start training again for someone else. And we've been successful in placing those dogs again. So.
You mentioned you have someone in Iowa that works with cattle more than Mr. Miller is working with sheep. Is that a dramatic different thing? Can the same dogs do both?
Yes, they can. Bobby likes to start them out on the goats and the sheep, something smaller. For safety purposes, and so there is a little bit different training process with that.
A little easier for the dogs, I think, to adapt to the sheep. The
Yes.
cows can be kind of ornery sometimes, and
Right.
Especially for a young dog, can be intimidating.
Right.
It sounds like you, first of all, I appreciate the heart that you have to be working in 2 areas, it sounds like, with these folks, but to also be starting this with the dogs, I know is a tremendous challenge, and so my appreciation to you for getting this started and getting it going.
Well, thank you.
And I think it's obvious that a lot of people give you the credit for getting it started. So,
Well,
and we
thanks.
hope we are able to help and let people know about this program, and maybe we can find somebody out there to help fund it and spread some interest in this.
That would be great.
I'm afraid that's all the time we have tonight, but I'd like to say thanks again to Jackie Allenbrand for joining us today. I'd also like to thank Bobby Miller, Alda Owen, and Sheila Hunt for taking time to visit with us as well. We'd also like to thank you, our viewers, for tuning in to Show Me Ag. We hope you'll tune in next time for another look at a topic touching rural Missouri. For everyone here at CAMOS and myself, good night. We're also very interested in what you have to say. So if you have feedback you'd like to share with us, you can email us at showmeag@camos.org or find us on Facebook.